Hello friends, myself Dr. Nidhi Darbari on My Education Treasure, and today I am going to explain about the nature of philosophy. Philosophy, meaning, nature, functions and features. The word philosophy is difficult to define in a specific way that is universally acceptable. There are different meanings of philosophy. Sometimes it refers to a certain method of thinking. As with all thought, philosophy arises out of an attempt to solve the problem, to make sense out of a confusing situation, or to explain an inadequacy. But unlike most kind of thought, it has no immediate objective. In other words, we may say that philosophy is concerned not so much with solving a confronting problem as with finding the deeper meaning of problems. Knowledge of philosophy is fundamental not only to an understanding of education as a whole but also to decide or select the techniques of teaching and their effective use. For example, a teacher teaches the principles of the square root in a class. You may find that the methodology used by the teacher is suitable for the understanding of children. The teacher knows the psychological conditions to create an appropriate classroom situation, but has he done enough in teaching every pupil to solve problems in solving square root? Is the task of a teacher simply to impart the subject matter specified in the syllabus? Or is education a means for improving all human behavior? Can it be a model for thinking? Can it help us to understand the nature of the universe and our place in it? Such are the questions that philosophy in general and educational philosophy in particular strive to answer. Etymological meaning of philosophy. The word philosophy can be traced to the Greek word philosophia, which is made up of two words, philos meaning love and sophia meaning wisdom. Wisdom is not the same as knowledge but much more than that. It is closely related to experience and worth bearing a sense of knowledge. Wisdom consists in knowledge plus the ability to utilize it properly in different situations. Therefore, the literal meaning of philosophy is love of wisdom. In this way, search for wisdom or truth is called philosophy, and the man who engages himself in this search is called a philosopher. Plato, in his book Republic, says that philosophy is that love of knowledge which makes a man wise, and also writes, he who has a taste of every sort of knowledge and who is curious to learn and is never satisfied may be just termed as a philosopher. Thus, philosophy gives the man that wisdom with the help of which he understands the whole universe, its nature and purpose, its relation to himself and all the people around him. Specific meaning of philosophy. To be precise and definite, one may call philosophy as that deep thinking and meditation which concern itself to the God, the soul, and the nature. This concentration and deep thinking is of revealing the hidden and immortal realities of existence, namely, what is knowledge, what is world, who has created the world, is there God, who am I, what is the aim of my life, why should I live, what is the nature of life, when human beings has come, and what will be his final destination, how does this cosmos operate, how does the heavenly bodies affect human life, is there any life after this, what is heaven and hell. All these are subjects of philosophical thinking and ultimate realization. As these mental activities are abstract and difficult in nature, only capable and great persons can indulge in them. Common people cannot do this type of concentrated thinking. According to Coleridge, it is a science of sciences. According to Cicero, it is mother of all arts and true medicine of mind. Bacon has said, Philosophy is great mother of science. According to Epictetus, the beginning of philosophy is the conflict between opinions. Fichte opines philosophy is the science of knowledge. Wider meaning of philosophy. Philosophers do not form a specific and special group themselves. All those persons are philosophers who, in one way or the other, search for truth and realities. A deep study reveals the fact that a man undergoes various kinds of experiences throughout his long life from birth to death. These experiences provide him with new knowledge. As a result, a capacity to discriminate between right and wrong, proper and improper, relevant and irrelevant through these experiences. In a sense, each of us does this search work in some way or the other to some lesser or greater extent. This is essential for life to go on smoothly in this world full of diversity. In this sense, each becomes a philosopher at some time or the other. As this search for truth is philosophy, the great German philosopher Schopenhauer rightly remarks, every man is a born metaphysician. Thus, philosophy raises questions in the mind, and again it inspires the persons to get the appropriate answer of the questions from the pursuit of his or her existing knowledge, experiences, or creating new knowledge. Features of philosophy. Philosophy is a set of views or belief about life and the universe which are often held uncritically. We refer to this meaning as the informal sense of philosophy or having a philosophy. Usually, when a person says, "My philosophy is," he or she is referring to an informal, personal attitude to whatever topic is being discussed. Philosophy is a process of reflecting on and criticizing our most deeply held conceptions and beliefs. This is the formal sense of doing philosophy. These two senses of philosophy, having and doing, cannot be treated entirely independent of each other. If we did not have a philosophy in the formal sense, personal sense, then we could not do a philosophy in a critical reflective sense. Having a philosophy, however, is not sufficient for doing philosophy. A genuine philosophical attitude is searching and critical. It is open minded and tolerant, willing to look at all sides of an issue without prejudice. To philosophize is not merely to read and know philosophy, there are skills of argumentation to be mastered, techniques of analysis to be employed, and a body of material to be appropriated such that we become able to think philosophically. To philosophize also means to generalize. Philosophers are reflective and critical. They take a second look at the material presented by common sense. They attempt to think through a variety of life problems and to face all the facts involved impartially. The accumulation of knowledge does not by itself lead to understanding because it does not necessarily teach the mind to make a critical evaluation of facts that entail consistent and coherent judgment. Critical evaluation often differ. Philosophers, theologians, scientists, and others disagree, first because they view things from different point of view and with different assumptions. Their personal experiences, cultural backgrounds, and training may vary widely. This is especially true of people living at different times and in different places. A second reason philosophers disagree is that they live in a changing universe. People change, society changes, and nature changes. Some people are responsive and sensitive to change. Others cling to tradition and the status quo, to systems that were formulated some time ago and that were declared to be authoritative and final. A third reason philosophers disagree is that they deal with an area of human experience in which the evidence is not complete. The evidence we do have may be interpreted in various ways by different people. Despite these disagreements, however, philosophers continue to probe, examine, and evaluate the material with the hope of presenting consistent principles by which we can live. Philosophy is a rational attempt to look at the world as a whole. Philosophy seeks to combine the conclusions of various sciences and human experience into some kind of consistent worldview. Philosophers wish to see life not with specialized slant of the scientist or the business person or the artist, but with the overall view of someone cognizant of life as a totality. Although there are difficulties and dangers in setting forth any worldview, there also are dangers in confronting attention to fragments of human experience. Philosophy's task is to give a new view of the whole, a life and a worldview, and to integrate the knowledge of the sciences with that of other disciplines to achieve a consistent whole. Philosophy, according to this view, attempts to bring the results of human inquiry, religious, historical, and scientific, into some meaningful interpretation that provides knowledge and insight for our lives. Philosophy is the logical analysis of language and clarification of the meaning of words and concepts. In fact, nearly all philosophers have used methods of analysis and have sought to clarify the meaning of terms and the use of language. Some philosophers see this as the main task of philosophy, and a few claim this is the only legitimate function of philosophy. Such persons consider philosophy a specialized field serving the sciences and aiding in the clarification of language rather than a broad field reflecting on all of life's experiences. This outlook has gained considerable support during the 20th century. It would limit what we call knowledge to statements about observable facts and their interrelations, that is, to the business of the various sciences. Not all linguistic analysts, however, define knowledge so narrowly. Although they do reject and try to clean up many non scientific assertions, many of them think that we can have knowledge of ethical principles and the like, although this knowledge is also experientially derived. Those who take the narrower view neglect, when they do not deny, all generalized worldviews and life views as well as traditional moral philosophy and theology. From this narrower point of view, the aim of philosophy is to expose confusion and nonsense and to clarify the meaning and use of terms in science and everyday affairs. Philosophy is a group of perennial problems that interest people and for which philosophers always have sought answers. Philosophy presses its inquiry into the deepest problems of human existence. Some of the philosophical questions raised in the past have been answered in a manner satisfactory to the majority of philosophers. Many questions, however, have been answered only tentatively, and many problems remain unsolved. What are philosophical questions? The question, did Ram make a false statement on his income tax return, is merely a question of fact. But the question, what is truth and what is the distinction between right and wrong, have philosophical importance. Sometimes we think seriously about fundamental life issues. What is life and why am I here? Why is there anything at all? What is the place of life in this great universe? Is the universe friendly or unfriendly? Do things operate by chance or through sheer mechanism, or is there some plan or purpose or intelligence at the heart of things? Is my life controlled by outside forces, or do I have a determining or even a partial degree of control? Why do people struggle and strive for their rights, for justice, for better things in the future? What do concepts like right and justice means, and what are the marks of a good society? Often men and women have been asked to sacrifice their lives if need be for certain values and ideals. These questions are all philosophical. The attempt to seek answers or solutions to them has given rise to theories and systems of thought such as idealism, realism, pragmatism, analytic philosophy, existentialism, phenomenology, and process philosophy. Philosophy also means the various theories or system of thoughts developed by great philosophers Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas, Descartes, Spinoza, Locke, Berkeley, Kant, Hegel, Royce, James Dewey, Whitehead, and others. Without these people and their thoughts, philosophy would not have the rich content it has today. Even though we may be unconscious of the fact, we are constantly influenced by the ideas that have come down to us in tradition of society. Functions of philosophy. Generally, there are two basic functions of philosophy. The first one is philosophy as analysis, and other one is a philosophy as synthesis. Philosophy as analysis. If we go through the history of philosophy, we may find that most of the philosophers were not metaphysicians, rather, they were analysts such as Locke, Berkeley, Hume, Mill, Moore, Hegel, etc. The analytical philosophers examined such concepts as mind, truth, causes, and assesses. You may observe that under analytic philosophy, an object conveys different meanings under different contexts. Today, analytical education and philosophical approaches dominate across the world. Analytical philosophy clarifies what we already know and points out inconsistencies in our thinking. It does not build a new system of thought. Philosophy as synthesis. The other main function of philosophy is a more traditional one. It attempts to synthesize all knowledge and man's total experiences. Here, the emphasis is upon the anticipated results rather than the tools and methods employed. This view was held by some early philosophers who did not claim to be wise men but merely lovers of wisdom. They claimed that their role was to help others in the search of wisdom. So, in this sense, philosophy is an attempt to give meaning to one's existence through the continued search for a comprehensive and consistent answer to basic problems. This makes philosophers an active person. For example, Socrates himself took philosophy as an activity. In the words of Plutarch, another philosopher mentioned that Socrates neither set up benches for his students, nor sat on a platform, nor sat houses for his teachers. He was philosophizing all the time, while he was joking, while he was drinking, while he was soldiering. Whenever he met you on the street, and met the end when he was in prison and drinking the poison. He was the first to start that all your life, all the time, in everything you do, whatever you are doing, is the time for philosophy. Philosophy is the process of philosophization. You may be wondering what is the process of philosophization in philosophy. Harold H. Titan mentioned to philosophize is not merely to read and to know philosophy, it is to think and to feel philosophical. The two terms philosophy and philosophization need to be understood properly before understanding the process of philosophization. Philosophization may be explained as working on creating new knowledge and examining that new knowledge for establishing a theory. The process and steps that we adopt for creating new knowledge, experimentation, process of inquiry, agreeing or disagreeing with the facts, etc., can be said as philosophization. It is therefore philosophization is the way to reach at the wisdom or truth which is philosophy. Through this process, Socrates developed his other methods of teaching. He posed his questions to his students and invited them to teach him by giving the best answer. Then he helped them to examine critically their own answers, to modify them, and then to alter or further modify till they reach at the truth. Another view of the function of the philosophy. Normative philosophy. The word normative refers to the norms or standard. So the normative function of philosophy means setting of norms, goals, principles, standards, etc. Philosophy explains the value of human life, the problems faced by them, and sets the goal for conducting practical ways of attaining them. By applying these norms, we are able to decide things so as to reach the right decision. Speculative philosophy. Another important function of philosophy is to speculate about the nature of reality, that is, striking a synthesis within the array of facts and bits of knowledge gathered from various sources. It leads the man from common sense approach to rational and perspective approach. The history of philosophy records the efforts of ancient Indian thinkers and Western thinkers. Based upon their insight into reality, philosophy have also sought to prescribe values and ideals. Critical philosophy. In its critical function, philosophy makes an in-depth study of every aspect. It clarifies concepts, tests hypotheses, establishes inconsistencies, presents unity of outlook, and inspires logical reasoning. Thus, philosophy establishes fundamental and education implements them. The overall function of all philosophy is to answer the fundamental questions of education. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give a like to the video to motivate me, share it for others, and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. Different areas of philosophy. Metaphysics studies nature of reality. Theology studies about the existence of God. Ontology is a study of ultimate reality. Cosmology deals with mysteries of the world. Cosmogony is related with the theory of the origin and development of the universe. Philosophy of self is concerned with philosophical interpretation of the self. Eschatology is concerned with the final matters as death or the afterlife. Epistemology studies theory of knowledge, origin of the knowledge, types of knowledge, methods of knowledge, validity of knowledge, sources of knowledge. Axiology studies about values. Logic deals with reason. Ethics is concerned about good and bad. Aesthetics is related with beauty. Philosophy may be concluded indispensable for every aspect of life. It is not only love of wisdom but also stands for love of knowledge and ultimate reality. Thus, philosophy is an organized search of knowledge. The above discussion shows that every man is engaged in the search of truth to understand well the realities of things and occurrences. Through this thinking, he gets knowledge out of which deduces a set of principles for his own use. He forms a set of ideals and values and begins to believe in them, often implicitly. Thus, according to Huxley, men live in accordance with their philosophy of life, their conception of the world. This is true even of the most thoughtless. It is impossible to live without metaphysics. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe.